Ladies and gentlemen, the EFF is struggling for relevance and the MK party is struggling to commit fraud or corruption. Yeah, that's according to the news anyway. And before we get on to the main news stories, if I can yes again remind you, please subscribe to the channel, really does help. And if you'd like to support the work I do here, you're welcome to buy me a coffee. Let's get right into it. There's a lot to talk about. So the first is that the EFF marched to the Constitutional Court on Tuesday to basically ask the Constitutional Court to reopen the Phala Phala investigation. According to the EFF, the ANC used its parliamentary majority underneath the last administration to block the report on Phala Phala, specifically the use of the report to impeach the president, and the ANC did this through their parliamentary majority. Now, according to the EFF, they want that report resubmitted to Parliament so that a new vote can occur, because the ANC no longer has a majority, and the EFF thinks that it could possibly get the required amount of votes to impeach the president. Even if they can't, even if they go and they get the DA to support the president, I suppose all they're going to do is use that as so-called proof, quote unquote, that the DA and the ANC have basically merged and become the same party. Because look, the DA is no longer interested in corruption. So many people have asked, why is the EFF doing this? Well, some of the suggestion is that the EFF is actually struggling for relevance now that the MK party is basically picking off its top members left, right and centre. According to the EFF themselves, according to Julius Malema, they must defeat the MK party who are trying to destroy the EFF. And apparently the reason that they're trying to destroy the EFF is because of the white agenda. Of course, why not? Both political parties always blame the white people whenever they seem to be upset for something. It's always the white people's fault. Anyway, according to Julius Malema, they can never allow that. And what they actually need is that they need to fight the ANC's corruption, because that's what the EFF was set up for. So that's apparently what they're doing. They're going against Phala Phala because the president is corrupt. Yeah. Apparently, you know who else is also corrupt? Well, according to Julius Malema, Jacob Zuma, because he says that the EFF had taken Jacob Zuma to court numerous times when the EFF was first established, and that they won many of their cases. Many of their cases then obviously had cost orders attached to them, where Jacob Zuma had to pay the EFF for their legal fees. You know, the usual loser pays the other side's legal fees. According to him, they've never been paid. So he has instructed his lawyers to basically attach former President Jacob Zuma's home, you know, Nkandla. And he has done this because pay back the money? In any case, what this tends to show is that the EFF and the MK party are continuing to basically ramp up the war of rhetoric against each other, and that they are basically resorting to lawfare. Talking of lawfare, for those of you who don't know, the DA's MP, Byron, has introduced a bill to Parliament to establish a brand new Chapter 9 institution, also known as the Anti-Corruption Commission. Now, the basic idea behind this Chapter 9 institution is that it would be enshrined in the 21st Constitutional Amendment, which would mean that in order to establish it and get rid of it, Parliament would need a 2/3 majority, as opposed to the previous anti-corruption body, the Scorpions, which was established by an Act of Parliament. And so the easiest way to get rid of it is, well, that's actually really easy. You just need a 50% majority, which the ANC have had, and then they can abuse it. Like many people suspect that that's exactly what Jacob Zuma wants when he talks about parliamentary supremacy. For those of you who don't know, Jacob Zuma doesn't like the Constitution, even though he helped to write it and establish it. But he now doesn't like it, suddenly, because what he says is that when you come up with stupid things, the Constitutional Court basically strikes it down as not being in line with the founding principles of the Constitution. Whereas when you have a parliamentary supremacy, you basically do what you want so no one can challenge you. Because, you know, I've got the numbers, therefore mob rule applies. Well, according to Byron, we need this anti-corruption body that can be freed of all political interference. Because according to her, the problem is when the previous body, the Scorpions, started to tackle Jacob Zuma's cronies, what had typically tended to happen is that they didn't want it to happen. So they just shut down the entire body. And there was no way for them to stop that, which meant that corruption actually went unchecked and actually in many instances obviously tripled overnight because there's no ways of getting caught. So this has led many ANC individuals to ask the relevant question, and that is, are we not just establishing another body like the MPA? And to that, Breitenbach's response is, yeah, but the problem is even the MPA is subject to political pressure, and what we really need is something that isn't. So would you know it, lo and behold, the MK party says they don't like this. They said they are going to oppose this anti-corruption commission, and they are going to oppose the 21st Constitutional Amendment to establish it in the Constitution. And why are they doing that? Well, according to them, apparently the body itself would basically be focused around state capture investigations and prosecuting the individuals responsible for state capture. And they don't like that, because many of them are responsible for state capture. Now, in typical fashion, I know exactly what I'm going to get in the comment section. And that's going to be the MK members are now the new EFF members. Whenever you say anything negative about the MK party, you are 1, racist, 2, stupid, 3, go back to where you came from, 4, bloody colonizers, why don't you come here and just shut your mouth off, you must get out of our country. And 5, yeah, I must just really not understand the MK like they do, because only they understand politics. The problem is that it's very clear to see what's going on. In many instances, corruption-accused individuals are being appointed to positions of power. When bodies or questions are raised around anti-corruption, they say, don't look at us, bud, and we don't want those investigations. Just shut up and get on with things because, give us back the lint. And what you tend to see now is basically forms of propaganda that are aimed at any forms of corruption busting. Now, I, for one, look at a Chapter 9 institution or a 21st constitutional amendment to establish a Scorpions as being a good thing. And I think everybody that's sane would probably say the same thing. So I'm going to ask you, let me know in the comment section below. Why do you think they don't want it? Anyway, on to a final story. Those of you who had noticed, apparently the crime statistics had come out, and serious crime, or murder crime, has actually gone down. Would you know it? And many individuals have said, well, it's not really equivalent to our lived experience, which actually shows us that in many instances has stayed the same. But in any case, this has obviously resulted in the usual propaganda opinion pieces, whereby they say that the most common weapon used in South Africa to commit murder is a firearm. Would you know it? Who did it? Yes, the executive director of Gun Free South Africa, Adele, who says that basically in order to stop all these mass murders, because according to her, it's a real medical emergency. Yeah, I've heard that all before. Apparently the Medical Association said that the most common weapon used is, the firearm. They just see all these gunshot wounds everywhere. And apparently because of that, we need to retable the Firearms Amendment Bill, which would ban firearms for the purpose of self-defense. Because we all know that bank robbers really care about parking tickets. In any case, nothing says making you safer by taking away your firearm for the purpose of self-defense. Yeah, these people are shameless. And again, I still ask myself the question, who the hell are listening to these clowns? But anyway, let's actually look at the data. Apparently, the data used was, wrong. Because apparently an independent study has shown that apparently the most common weapon used for crime in South Africa is, a knife. And the reason it's a knife is because they're freely available. Find them in any kitchen. You can get them relatively cheap. You can get them anywhere. And that should come as no surprise to anybody, apart from Gun Free South Africa. It's not that Gun Free South Africa doesn't know this. They do know this. But it doesn't suit the narrative. Let's be honest. The Black Lawyers Association are never going to turn around and say to you that there's adequate representation of black individuals in the legal sphere. Because then you'd say, job done, close your organization and go home. You've achieved what you set out to achieve. So as a result, if you think about it, it suits the propaganda to basically constantly keep saying, oh yeah, underrepresented. And the same could be said for any NGO or political pressure body. So obviously in this instance, it suits the narrative to say, oh, firearms, so terrible, we need to ban them. Because that's what they aim for. They want a gun-free South Africa. It's in the name. In any case, you can let me know what you think about this whole debacle in the comment section below, as usual. Anyway, that's it. At the moment, the EFF are waiting for the judgment in the Phala Phala case from the Constitutional Court. Obviously, a key question was, what took you so long in raising the question? And that's why many individuals are saying, well, they only raised it now because now they're struggling for political survival. And obviously the question around Nkandla, there have been many individuals say, not sure you can attach tribal homes or tribal land. That's the reason banks won't lend against them. And obviously it's very interesting to see what's happening with the Anti-Corruption Commission Bill. But anyway, you can let me know what you think. Until next time, bye.